Leo here with the daily updates for BT News. Today's segment will focus on the newest outbreak of news, the unreliability of memory. Imagine riding a bike for the first time, going to Disney World, winning the spelling bee. Memories such as these are treasures that shape the past, present, and future. What most do not know about memory is that it can be deceiving, faulty, mistaken, and questionable. This is truly memory. Due to factors such as alterations, holes, and subjective experiences, memories are not always reliable. To kick off this segment, I'm going to pass the mic to Karen, our movie expert, to unpack this discovery.
Grasping at the idea of unreliable memory, the movie Memento focused on a man named Lenny who developed anterograde amnesia after a traumatic incident. In the beginning of the film, the incident was portrayed to be his wife being raped and murdered, while at the same time, Lenny's head was hit abruptly, resulting in his brain injury. By the end of the movie, it is revealed that his wife is actually alive, and she decided to leave Lenny due to his obsession with finding the attacker. Instead of suffering from the fact that his wife left him, he convinced himself that she is dead. Here's a clip of the movie where, ironically, Lenny explains how unreliable his memory really is.
Why not? Because your notes could be unreliable.
Memory's unreliable.
Oh, please.
No, really. Memory's not perfect. It's not even that good. Ask the police. Eyewitness testimony is unreliable. Cops don't catch a killer by sitting around remembering stuff.
Right.
They collect facts.
That's not what I'm saying.
They make notes and they draw conclusions. Facts, not memories. That's how you investigate. I know. It's what I used to do. Look, memory can change the shape of a room. It can change the color of a car. And memories can be distorted. They're just an interpretation. They're not a record. And they're irrelevant if you have the facts.
The clip explains Lenny's way of thinking about his wife's condition and the audience's interpretation of the movie. Lenny altered his memory of his wife by portraying her dead. In addition to that, he blocked out the fact that she is diabetic. Throughout the entire movie, the plot is shown backwards. It makes it seem as if Lenny is a reliable source. Testing the viewer's memory, the director illustrates how easily our memories can be changed by adding and discovering new pieces of information.
Well, thank you, Karen, for that great review of the movie Memento in relation to unreliable memories. Up next is an interview with the famous psychologist, Daniel Schachter.
So nice to finally meet you, Dr. Schachter, and same to you.
So, with the sudden news of memory being unreliable, I've read about your discoveries with the 7 sins of memory. Can you elaborate on what the 7 sins are and which one is the most commonly not taken into consideration?
Well, the 7 sins of memory are 7 factors that affect the accuracy of memory. These 7 are transience, absent-mindedness, blocking, misattribution, suggestibility, bias, and persistence. Looking at the sins, I would say that bias is the main one that people often forget about. Bias is the distorting influences of present knowledge, beliefs, and feelings on recollection of previous experiences. In simpler terms, this means that past experiences and emotions can alter the way that people currently feel.
Can you share an example of when bias comes into play?
Of course. So let's say that I asked you to recall the time when you learned how to ride a bike. If you are happy in present time, you would remember that memory in a happy way. For instance, you could say how accomplished you felt in the moment and how you wanted to ride again. On the other hand, if you're upset in present time, you would remember the memory in a negative way. This could include you saying how when you first learned how to ride a bike, you fell off and scraped your knee, and you dreaded riding the bike again. Although it sounds crazy, present emotions can alter how past memories are perceived in a specific moment.
When I was also reading the book Introducing Psychology, I also picked up on the fact that consistency bias occurs. What is that exactly?
Consistency bias is when memories are altered so the past aligns with the present. An example of this would be if a student was asked to rate how stressed they were before taking an exam and after they received their results a week later. When asked how stressed they were initially before taking the exam, after they got their test scores back, students who did well on the exam underestimated their initial stress levels, and students that did poorly overestimated them.
Wow, that is incredible. Something as simple as emotions can alter past memories. Have you discovered there to be more than 7 sins after all these years?
I actually have discovered a new sin called reconsolidation. This is the act of retrieving a past memory, but instead of storing it away with the exact same information, new information is added.
How does that work exactly?
By adding additional information, the details of the original memory are blurred. Additional information can include details from a friend, new knowledge that has been gained since the event, or a source of media such as a video. New information can also replace old information, therefore changing the memory altogether. Due to this alteration, certain memories may not be considered reliable.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for participating in this interview today.
Anytime, thanks for having me.
Up next, I will reveal the astonishing results of an experiment to help further discover how reliable memory truly is. Here's a video clip of someone tripping over a purple crock. This video was shown to many subjects, and after, they were either asked, did you see a green crock or did you see the green crock? Weeks later, they were asked the same questions, and the results are shocking.
Did you see a purple croc?
Yes.
Did you see a purple croc?
Yep.
Did you see a purple croc?
Yeah.
Did you see the green croc?
Yes.
Did you see the green croc?
Yes, sir.
Did you see the green croc?
Yeah. As you can see, the simple use of the word the instead of a can alter the memories of some. The word the makes it seem as if it were confidently there, so over time the subject believes that the croc was green instead of purple. Elizabeth Loftus, a researcher that conducted a similar experiment, stated, "This new information, in turn, causes your representation of the original memory to be altered or reconstructed. Later, if you are asked a question about the event, your recall will not be of the original event, but rather your reconstruction of it." Her thoughts show how simple it is to reconstruct a memory without even realizing it. The reconstruction of the memory replaces the original thought, making it difficult to differentiate what is accurate. In regard to the example with the ball, the simple alteration of the words a to the changes the meaning of the sentence and how the subject interprets it. With the present, the color green was added to the original memory, even if it was not there before. The wording of the question does not even faze the subject. They assume that it is true. Such a situation exemplifies how faulty memory can be. Now, I'm going to show a clip of a TED Talk that reveals how truly unreliable memory is.
In a study we published just a few months ago, we have an answer to this question. Because what was unusual about this study is we arranged for people to have a very stressful experience. The subjects in the study were members of the U.S. military who were undergoing a harrowing training exercise to teach them what it's going to be like for them if they are ever captured as prisoners of war. And as part of this training exercise, these soldiers are interrogated in an aggressive, hostile, physically abusive fashion for 30 minutes. And later on, they have to try to identify the person who conducted that interrogation. And when we feed them suggestive information that insinuates it's a different person, many of them misidentify their interrogator, often identifying someone who doesn't even remotely resemble the real interrogator. And so what these studies are showing is that when you feed people misinformation about some experience that they may have had, you can distort or contaminate or change their memory. Well, out there in the real world, misinformation is everywhere. We get misinformation not only if we're questioned in a leading way, but if we talk to other witnesses who might consciously or inadvertently feed us some erroneous information, or if we see media coverage about some event we might have experienced. All of these provide the opportunity for this kind of contamination of our memory. In the 1990s,
In this TED Talk, Elizabeth Loftus exemplifies the idea that memories can be easily altered. By feeding people misinformation about experiences and past events, the memories are modified to fit the new information. The scary part is, misinformation is in abundance. Misinformation can insert itself into one's mind through storytelling, friends, family, time passing by, and social media. By simply suggesting false information to a subject about who their interrogator was, the subject relied on the falsified memory and picked the wrong person. This simply illustrates how dangerous it can be to rely on memory, whether it is for a simple story or an eyewitness testimony. In regard to unreliable memory, time is a factor that affects everyone. In certain circumstances, it may seem as if a memory is clear, although it happened years ago. This connects to the main idea that traumatic events are easy to remember because of their impact. Events such as being shot, getting in a car accident, and breaking a bone are all considered traumatic incidences. Since these are all events that stick out in memory, they are often considered to be remembered easily. It was discovered that over time, these memories fade and are subjective to each person's individual experiences. With the same idea of memory accuracy fading over time, the article Metacognitive Appraisal of Memory Inconsistency for Traumatic Events in Dutch Veterans tested college students to see how accurate their memory of the Challenger exploding was. This was considered a memorable event that left an impact on the students. In particular, the author states, When shown their inconsistent reports of their memories, the students were amazed as they had expressed confidence in their memories being very accurate. This quote supports the concept that no matter what age, memories fade and lose accuracy over time. Furthermore, the level of confidence that a person has in remembering an event does not depict how accurate the memory is. A person could be completely confident that they remembered an instance as if it were yesterday, but in reality, some information is most likely wrong or altered. In relation to the students in the study, the event was so prominent in their lives, it seemed as if a simple task to recall the memory. The confidence came from the sensation of knowing all of the details in a memorable situation. In reality, this sense of confidence was torn away when the results were released, stating that the accuracy of the students' memories deteriorated over time. Now, I'm going to show a clip of a TED Talk that reveals how truly unreliable memory is.
Now, the remembering self is a storyteller. And that really starts with a basic response of our memory. It starts immediately. We don't only tell stories when we set out to tell stories. Our memory tells us stories. That is, what we get to keep from our experiences is a story. And let me begin with one example. This is an old study. Those are actual patients undergoing a painful procedure. I won't go into detail. It's no longer painful these days, but it was painful when this study was run in the 1990s. They're asked to report on their pain every 60 seconds. And here are two patients. Those are their recordings. And you are asked who of them suffered more. And it's a very easy question. I mean, clearly patient B suffered more. His colonoscopy was longer, and every minute of pain that patient A had, patient B had, and more. But now there is another question. How much did these patients think they suffered? And here is a surprise. And the surprise is that patient A had a much worse memory of the colonoscopy than patient B. The stories of the colonoscopies were different, and because a very critical part of a story is how it ends. And neither of these stories is very inspiring or great, but one of them is distinctly worse than the other. And the one that is worse is the one where pain was at its peak at the very end. It's a bad story. How do we know that? Because we asked these people after their colonoscopy, and much later too, how bad was the whole thing in total? And it was much worse for A than for B in memory. Now, this is a direct conflict between the experiencing self and the remembering self. From the point of view of the experiencing self, clearly B had a worse time. Now,
This TED Talk expands on the concept of how memory is subjective. Although the colonoscopy for patient A was shorter and less painful overall, the patient remembers it to be grueling due to the high amounts of pain at the end of the procedure. This relates to experiences in general because the pain is equivalent to emotions. If someone were to take a vacation for a week and they broke their leg at the end of the week, the vacation could be considered horrible. On the other hand, someone could go on a vacation for 3 days and say it was the time of their lives. Memories are subjective to each and every person and can be completely altered based on one positive or negative experience. With trauma and war affecting adults, it is often questioned if children are affected by PTSD too. PTSD and memory distortion are perceived to be events that occur during adult life, but these situations are just as importantly able to occur at a young age. In the article, Paratraumatic Disassociation Predicts Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Symptoms via Dysfunctional Trauma-Related Memory Among War-Affected Children, the author wanted to uncover the relationship between paratraumatic disassociation, PD, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, symptoms along with their influence on the memory of children. Here we have the author, Kirsi Peltonen, to discuss her research with this topic.
Paratraumatic dissociation is a complex term used to describe reactions related to trauma. Post-traumatic stress disorder is often associated with paratraumatic dissociation. It was found that memories that occurred during the war of the children were broken and dysfunctional. This made it more difficult to control the PTSD and actions for the children. For example, the article states, this is in accordance with theories suggesting that risks and maintenance of PTSD are due to deficient encoding of traumatic memories and later dysfunctional recalling and processing of events, as well as failure in symbolization and integration of traumatic scenes. In simpler terms, These memories are more difficult to analyze and remember than the average event. When recalling the memory, parts are distorted and inaccurate due to the original interference of incorrect details and heightened emotions. For instance, if a child was scared of the presence of the war, they could remember the event to be more traumatic and harming than it actually was. Supplementary to that, noises such as a loud bang could be misinterpreted to being considered a gunshot fire. Furthermore, being unable to recognize scenery and items regarding the traumatic event continues to support the idea that traumatic memories are not reliable.
It is sadly time for the segment to end. All in all, memories can easily be altered by a series of factors. Such factors including new information, missing information, subjective experiences, and wording of questions are reasons why memories cannot always be considered reliable. In accordance with life events, eyewitness testimonies and retelling of criminal events may not be the best source for court cases and investigations due to this. No matter what age, memory can be altered even in the slightest. By looking at this aspect in relation to childhood and adult life enhances the common knowledge of the faultiness of memories. Memory seems as if it is trusting in an asset, but it may not turn out to be so reliable after all. Tune in next week for the next breaking news.